Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the other book fair in The Hague 2022. We're reporting live from Quarter, and in a moment we're going to go in and check out some of the exhibitors, mostly Riso presses, some not, and we'll have a little conversation. But for now, maybe we do a brief turn and see the space. Cool. So, we're going to chat with these guys, but they're not here right now. This is Sorry in Antwerp, but we'll skip ahead to a publisher in Rotterdam. Greetings. Welcome to the Instagram Live of Knust. This is, do you have a name of your publisher? Thank you.
Hi.
So maybe you could just introduce yourself and say a little bit about what you do at your studio.
Yes. Now, hi everyone. I'm Teentje Fleur. I'm a graphic artist from Rotterdam, and you can recognize my work. It's really colorful, most of the time with primary colors, and I work a lot with shapes. And also in my zines, you can see a lot of things about communication between people, and then I will make a zine of it. That kind of subjects.
And do you publish only your work, or do you work with other artists?
No. Most of the time I publish my own work with my own printer.
And what Riso do you have?
And I said 370 with a single drum.
Single drum.
Important, huh?
And
That's a really good one.
And you are also the press operator at Print Room, which
yes,
is the
over here.
These publications over here.
Yeah.
And maybe you could speak a little bit on Karen, who founded Print Room. It's her birthday today. Happy birthday, Karen.
She's not here. Print Room is an organization who works with a lot of artists for self-publishing. And for me, I'm the research chef from Print Room, so I print all the publications for their in the house. For like example, we printed this book, 14 Trees of Rotterdam. It's all with Riso. Or this publication, a story about like a diary story about making miso. So we have all kind of different publication, and this one is from Knust Press, the newest one. So that's what we.
And there was an exhibition with Ruha Press just a month ago.
Yes, 1 month ago. Yeah.
And Print Room has some publishers or artists that they invite for an exhibition and a survey of their shows. And it's a great bookstore in Rotterdam.
Yeah, come and visit.
It's a short train ride away from The Hague.
Only 15 minutes.
How long?
15.
Super close. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And see you around.
Thank you.
Okay, great. We're going to slide over to Enter Press. Hello, greetings again. Welcome to the Instagram Live. This is Enter Press from Bologna, but also based here in the Netherlands as well. Could you maybe just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Enter Press?
Yeah, we're a collective of 4 illustrators, and we have 1 board member that helps with the editing of the books. And we're all from Italy, different parts of Italy, but we're based in Bologna. And we started making books in 2020, and since November we've moved the whole studio to Bologna. So we're now based in Italy.
Fantastic. And he mentioned you're a board member? Could you maybe describe your role a little bit?
Yeah, like we all studied together, but like we studied different things in an academy in Italy called ISIA. I am the only one that studied graphic design, so I guess.
Yeah, we're all illustrators and she's the graphic designer.
But also like my practice. I'm an artist, and like I sometimes help with like text and like figure out some stuff.
Do you help design these books then?
Well, yeah.
would you mind showing us a couple of your publications?
This is the latest book we made, and it's by Noemi Bola. She's an author that does mostly children's books in Italy. She works with Corraini. And this is an archive of her latest sketches, graffiti, tattoo work. And so we did this. And it's just a collection of her latest works. And yeah, it's sort of, it contains also some short poems that she writes, sad poems.
And she's part of the collective as well.
No, she's an Italian author. And
Yeah.
she just collaborated with us.
So Enter does not only work with the Quattro, you also...
We mostly want to work with other people. We work as publisher.
And just some nerdy questions. What kind of Riso do you use in Bologna?
We have RP 3700 from 2002, I think.
Wow. This is a very finicky machine. And how many colors do you guys have?
10.
Impressive. Impressive. Very impressive. Cool. And do you guys have any advice for people who want to start publishing, or if you people who have Risos, any stories you'd like to tell?
Just don't do it alone, I guess, because since I started doing it with more people, it's becoming easier. And the stress of having an old machine, having problems, everything you can figure out with the help of others. So,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. Greetings. Hello. I'm back. Would you guys maybe like to just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your project?
Hello, welcome. We are Potato Publishing. We're an artist collective. Also, we run an open Riso print workshop. We have a scene library, and we host residency programs and different collective practices projects, I would call it. Yeah.
And could you just introduce yourself, like your name?
I'm Sarah. Hi.
Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Giovanna.
And do you work with many artists, or is it just the people in your collective?
No, also we try to expand our network, and we work collectively by inviting other collectives that we maybe meet at scene fairs, or also that we find on Instagram. And so, yeah, we're constantly trying to find new people and then also present their work at our table.
Amazing. And I see that most of your work is illustration. And maybe I could ask you a couple specifics about the machines you use and the process you use with the artists to make these illustrations. So what Riso do you have? And
we have several GR Riso machines, like the 3770 and also the 3750, but we work usually with one Riso, the only one that is connected to a RIP, raster image processor, so that makes it easier for registration. And yeah, so right now I have 13 colors.
Amazing.
And yeah.
And when you all are doing your pre-press, is there any specific screening or dot patterns that you guys prefer, or do you kind of leave that up to the artist?
Maybe you can say
And so it really depends on who of our collective is like taking care of the print project. Usually it is like that people write us or contact us that they have some project, and depending on that they come with different materials and ideas and expectations. And then also depends on who of our collective. Right now it's around 5 people that are taking care of the print project. So depending on who of us has time, is there taking care of it. So there is not really one way.
You don't have a standard format. Excellent. Good to know. Good to know. I like that. Are there any publications you'd like to show us and maybe talk to us a little bit about the process of making it?
Yes, that's the reason. Okay, so that's something. This is a zine that I recently made with my friend Andre, and he visited our project, Popuzine Club, and we made it during this the project we had there, and it was very spontaneous. I can show you a bit around. So it was mostly inspired by what we do, like from our personal practices, but it just came together as a spontaneous project, and we use different papers and also three colors like fluo orange, purple, and black. So yes, I think it was for me it was a nice way to work in a spontaneous kind of environment. And I think our kind of that's our project what is about. Like we had really different people coming in.
And do the artists themselves do the pre-press? Getting ready for the Riso? Yeah.
For example, what we do is a lot of the people who come do have some knowledge of how Riso functions, but for new people, we give them introduction and we help them around in the beginning, and we're just there to support them during the process and to help them realize the project.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. Thanks for coming by. I'm sorry, that was Potato Press, not Kudla. It looks like Kudla is not at his table, but we take a lap. Huh? We go visit Terry Blue, Hugo from Amsterdam. Hello, Hugo. This is Terry Blue from Amsterdam. Maybe you could just give me a quick introduction, your name, where you are, what you do.
I'm Hugo. I'm French, living in Amsterdam for 10 years. I started Terry Bleu 6 years ago, which was first a project for myself to screen print actually. And then I slowly invited friends and artists to collaborate. Then we got a Riso machine. And I really enjoy also having a studio and meeting artists and not working alone, which is great. And that's how it started, and here we are.
Here, all the way in The Hague. He's made it from Amsterdam to The Hague. Big steps. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about the artists that you publish and the genre of things that you publish. It seems like most of the interest is in illustration or comics. And then maybe you could tell us a little bit about which machine you have and some technical details about your stuff.
I think focus mostly on illustration. I would say a little bit like naive and express like quite some character, I think. But I also invite artists that have different way of working, which I find really interesting. Some people, like for example, will give me a files with all the layers separated and ready to go, you know. But then some artists that don't know how to work with computer send me raw file, like for example Adriana, which is directly. Oh, this is filming.
Instagram Live, buddy.
So this is like pencil drawings. So like this kind of work, I'm free to play around with the separation. So I also have more freedom in this kind of book. Same goes with Joachim, where we decided to do some chapters in 2 colors, some chapters in 4 colors. Just to play also with the printing and keep it fun for myself as well.
And are there particular pre-press settings that you prefer to use? Just specific screening, specific angle, dot size?
It really depends on who actually. Some works I really like. I use the grain touch a lot, like 4 colors. This one actually is 6 colors printed from Sophie. I also did the separation myself using quite different ways, actually Photoshop mostly, but also like adding sometimes like a little layout on top to make some area a bit brighter. And then on the other hand, like works like Jose Quintana, which are really like more bold colors, you know. So he's like doing the separation, and we have like really bold colors, everything 100%. So it works really nice. I think all this works together. But there are all different ways of working. I think that's also what I like, depending on the artist. We made also a big book recently with Mark Henne from Berlin. So he had quite some Riso books, and I was trying to push him to do actually a screen print because he didn't have it. So also like playing with the technique, trying to see what they do and what we could do together as a duo. So
It's beautiful, beautiful publications. Anything on the horizon? Anything coming up soon?
yeah, we have quite a bit. The next one will be a new book with Jose called Boats, which is boats he drew with his son. So it's a collection of 100 and more boats, line drawings, really nice. Also, Joachim is finishing a new book, which is also going to be 180 pages. So that's going to be a nightmare. Thanks, Joachim, for that. But that's going to be a fun project also, yeah. Working with duotones as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I should also mention that Jose is a member of Ruha Press, who we saw on Print Room's table. And they also publish their own books in Riso as well. And thanks for sharing, Hugo. If you're ever in Amsterdam, in De Pipe, you should swing by and check it out. Okay. Next up, their neighbors. Yeah, you can show that hat. This is Martin from Riso Fort.
Yes. Hi, Martin.
I don't know if you just heard the questions I asked Hugo, but maybe you could describe a little bit about what Riso Fort is and your focus on publishing. It doesn't have to be in depth. It can just be as brief as you like.
Okay. So we are a collective of 3 people, Lissy, me and Nikita, who isn't here today. And we are not technically a publisher, but more a print studio. So yeah, we mostly do contract printing actually, which is sometimes books as well. Yeah.
Then how did these books come to be?
So some of them are from a small Hamburgian publisher, Magma Bruta. They are releasing comic books every other month. And we are printing with them and kind of like on the technical side, helping them on how to produce the books. But they are themselves publishers, so they just use us as a print service. And this one is a photo book we recently printed, also from a studio colleague from ours, which is kind of self-published, I guess. And this one here is one of our few own books, basically, which is
Would you mind showing it to the...
Yeah, sure. It's a coloring book that we produced last year. And we asked different artists to contribute basically, what do you say, like images or like line drawings, so for people to color.
And this is Nikita, one of the people from Riso Fort.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, there's a few different ones from Germany, Austria, I don't know where else. So around people we know remotely. Oh yeah, that's true. Budapest as well. Yeah.
Basically friends.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, that's one of the few things that come from Riso Fort, so to say. Yeah.
Maybe you could walk us through your process of creating the plates and the technical aspects of this. Are there any preferred screening methods or separation methods that you use?
Yeah. For example, when you look at this one, Zoe from Mike, it's so we mainly print in grain touch, which is like opposed to screen printing or something like this. And this one was done with the help of the program Spectrolite. It's like a US-based open source program also from a Riso collective. And so everything that's black and white is just regular FM screening, and the color images, they have been separated with Spectrolite in 3 colors. And we toned down the Federal Blue a little bit because it was just too dark. But I think it fits very well because Mike, all the photos that he was taking are also analog photos. So the film already has its grain, and then it's reproduced with the FM screening. And I think it just feels quite right to use that kind of screening for analog photography because it transports the grain of the film already. Yeah. And for this one, I don't know, we did a lot of testing. We wanted to do fake CMYK printing before, but for Mike, the artist, it just was too dark because the black was just like overwhelming, and he wanted to generate a lot of warmer colors, as you can see here. And so after all, we decided to just go with the three colors, which is yellow, fluo pink, and federal blue. So those were the.
And on the Spectrolight app, you're able to input your own colors as well. You don't have to use these standardized CMYK or red, blue, yellow.
Yeah. It's really cool. You can just load your own palette, like all the inks that you have in your studio or in your print shop, and then you can create custom palettes with these inks, which is, it works really well for photos, and people have been using it for layouting and other stuff as well, but we mainly use it for like screening, for separating the images, because it's way easier to handle than Photoshop or any other programs. Yeah.
And it's free.
It's free and it's open source, yeah, and it's really.
That's what Riso printers like.
It's true, yeah.
Maybe you could walk us through one of your illustrated books and how you've done the plate separations. Do the artists themselves provide them, or do you have to go through it with them?
Do you want to talk about Doom, maybe?
No, maybe this one is a good example as well of how the artist set it up, because I think with this one they already separately drew the lines and made a filling like separately already, and then digitized both drawings, which is an interesting process, I think, if you don't want to do the separation digitally. Yeah. So, and then they just had. Yeah, they were considering to take a darker blue for the lines and the light blue for the filling, but they ended up taking the very light blue already for the lines because it works quite well, even though it's so light, and the light gray for the filling. That was kind of a process where they didn't know at first which color they will end up with, but yeah, by testing they chose something completely different. Anyway.
Was this also FM screening, Grain Touch?
Yes, it is. Yes, both of it.
So no dot process, no screen angles for you guys. Yeah, you just
anything on this table that's not, or maybe other postcards.
That's actually.
Yeah.
Okay. The only time Riso Fort uses AM screening is here. Wow, stunning work. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, sure.
And if you're ever in Hamburg, Germany, the home of the hamburger, supposedly, the myth of the hamburger, stop by and give them a visit. Or if you ever need anything printed, they're for hire. Cool. Thank you. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Hello, I'm back for this interview. Could you maybe just introduce yourself and your project name briefly?
Sure. I'm Leonor Faber-Jonker, and I have many projects, always, all the time, but one of my main projects is a new publishing house called Knust Press, and I am releasing my first book 3rd of November, which is called Grit, Truus de Groot in New York City.
Cool. And the publication is actually here on the table. It's some photographs. Do you mind if we look through it? Or
no, please do, but it's a dummy, so it's not what the publication will look like. It's just to give an impression of the photo selection. Yeah, please have a look.
And these are some images from New York City in 1982, 1983?
From 1981 onwards. It's between 1981 and 1987. And it's a selection. So this is the selection that will be in the book, and it will be accompanied with an interview, like a full quote piece of Truus de Groot, remembering her time in New York. And Truus was a post-punk pioneer. And she moved from Eindhoven to New York in 1981. She still is a post-punk pioneer, actually. And she's a fantastic musician. But she also made beautiful photographs and beautiful Super 8 films and videos. So she's really a very talented, all-round artist, I think. Yeah.
And you had worked with Riso printers. You don't print yourself necessarily, working mostly with stencil work, but we will visit later on. And maybe you could just talk about the process of working with stencil work, and do you do any pre-press with them, or do you mostly rely on artists to handle these decisions?
I mostly rely on Bertus. I mean, over the years I've been working with him, I've kind of learned what is possible and what not, because when you start with Riso printing, you usually have really crazy ideas, and then you realize that Riso comes with its limitations and also with its special possibilities. And I'm just making little scenes for myself with my own collage work. I've kind of learned what you can do and what you can't do. So, yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Maybe you could show us a couple of the publications that you've printed in Riso?
Yeah, so I really like making little collage booklets, and I usually make collages then in 2 layers. So I'm a collage artist, and I make regular collages, but these I make in 2 layers, and then I work with one normal piece of paper and a transparent piece of paper, and that enables you to
See through.
Yeah, you see through, you see more or less what you're making, and you can also print 2 different color layers. And I like to sneak in a little poster, and this is a technique that I learned from Lula Valletta, my friend and colleague collagist. She really made me very enthusiastic about collage, because I used to just make collages for punk flyers, and they were really rough and I don't know, just DIY, and she made me enthusiastic about it, and so I started making these things.
And when you are Riso printing with Bertus, do you ever have any discussions about like the dots or like the way that the image looks and the colors, or do you have any discussions about that kind of technical information?
Yeah, small things. Sometimes I use pictures that are too faint, so it comes out too faint, and then Bertus asks me, shall I increase the contrast? Shall I make it the color a bit thicker? Stuff like that. And we do that usually through WhatsApp. Sometimes I go to his workshop and we figure it out together. But of course, Bertus is, Riso king, so I kind of just let him make the decisions, because he knows what he's doing.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And where are you based?
I'm based in Rotterdam.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Okey-dokey. Susanna? Hello. We're with Susanna from Pamphlet. They're based in Bergen, Norway. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about the Riso printing you do in Norway and some of the publications on the table, just a little.
All the Riso printing we do. So at Pamphlet we have some residencies. So we invite some artists to come and print for like 1.5 weeks. But then we also have people who want to do institutions and people who want to print. So this one was the one we did most recently. It's Marianne, what's her name? Marianne Arnesen and Espen Friberg. They do like a collab. So they do drawings together. One does each color. So they had a residency at our place. So that's cool.
And when you are working with these artists, do you help them do the pre-press, and do you help them choose what kind of screening or what colors to use?
Yeah, we help them out. So they come prepared. Partly, since it's only 1.5 weeks, they have to do some preparations, but we help them with the whole printing process. And so some of them have never done Riso before, and then we go through the whole process and take the decision together.
Cool. Are there any preferred screenings, or do you prefer to use grain touch, or do you prefer to use the dot process? Are there any like tricks that you like to use with these people?
You missed the nerd, Anki.
So Anki is the one that knows.
Yeah, she's the Riso nerd. But personally, I prefer the green touch, but yeah.
Seems like grain touch is very popular amongst Riso printers.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, you should. Yes, Anki's beautiful little fanzine. Ikke bare bilder av dyr. So not only images of animals. So it's very cute fanzine. It's not only images of animals. But most. Here's a couple making out and a dog looking at them. Yeah, very nice. And this is by Fredrik, who is also part of Pamphlet. I think this one is quite old. So we have a lot of Norwegian stuff here. But this is about Fredrik deciding what he wants to be when he grows up. He does not want to be a food critic, he says. But he's not here today.
Cool. Thank you very much, Susanna. And Pamphlet is again based in Bergen, Norway. So if you're ever in the Nordic country, feel free to swing by, see the 7 mountains that they have there. Sweet. Thanks so much. I think we'll go to Wabi Club. There we are. Yeah. So here's Wabi Club. This is the newest issue. And Wabi Club is based out of Tilburg. Maybe you could just quickly introduce yourself.
I'm Marjolein. I'm from Wabi Club, and Wabi Club is a platform for autonomous illustration based in Tilburg, the Netherlands, the world, the universe. And we make a Riso-printed magazine 4 times a year. It's called Wabi, hence Wabi Club.
And you've had how many issues now?
This is the 29th, and we're working on the 30th. So difficult to pronunciate. I'm going to skip that later on.
And maybe I could ask you a couple more nerdy questions, like what kind of machine you have, and if you have a preference for screening or pre-press, kind of.
It's really a nice coincidence that our print technician that's Bobby Oskam, also an illustrator, is here.
Hello.
He is the printer nowadays. I started printing Bobby, and now we have so many other projects like exhibitions and work periods that I'm more behind the computer and emailing. So I'm really happy that Bobby is now the print technician. So maybe the really nerdy question Bobby can answer, but I can try.
Don't be afraid, Bobby. You can. I'm sure you do great. But, do I? Yeah. It looks fantastic. But maybe you could walk us through like some of the process of your pre-press, and if you prefer like certain types of screening, like grain touch or dot process, and if there are any things that you are really concerned about when you're making these prints.
Oh God, that's a loaded big question.
You can start and finish anywhere.
I think I think the fun thing about printing for Wabi is that like every issue is like a whole different range of artists. So pretty much everyone supplies like totally different files sometimes. So sometimes it's really easy. It's like somebody who already knows printing really well, and basically you don't have to do anything, just press print and there it goes. And then sometimes we also work with people more with like a fine art background. It's like just like a flat image, and then we have to take everything apart. But to go through the process, I think everything is different, just depending on the work you have, trying to feel like what's the right way for this.
Could you maybe show us a couple of examples from the things that you've printed?
And maybe it's important to say that the cover and the centerfold is printed in max 4 colors, and the rest is only in 2 colors. So that's a really big challenge for a lot of artists. And we also give them a PSD file, because we're used to working PSD, well, of course from InDesign, but our artworks we are just used to working from PSD. So they get a file, but we have a sort of mock-up in it, which we think is really simple, but it appears that it's not so simple. So we try to tweak every time we send them the specifications. We try to improve it because it could be simpler probably. But there are like in each issue there are like 15 people, 10 to 15 artists. So yeah, you can understand that not everyone is used to sending these files. But maybe you can.
I don't know what's bad.
Yeah, if you, what was your question about?
Mostly just about like if you use spot colors or if you use grain touch or dot process and like I don't know what it is.
we print directly from our Apple, and as everyone probably knows, the driver from is really simple. So we don't have a lot of options. So I think lately we don't just use grain. Because it's also because if people use like more these kind of softer then it's plus of course because this how do you call it imposition. Oh wait, this is simple. It's a bad example. Sorry.
That's also you always have to like something like two totally different artworks, different styles that have to be printed on the same.
This is on the same, printed on the same sheet.
So you have to go somewhere in the middle a lot of times for work for like both ways. And
great, fantastic. And are these your publications?
Yeah, this is all my stuff.
Maybe we could take a peek at some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Talk to us about this.
Yeah, this is a publication I made together with Knust. I think this is probably the best printed one. Shout out to Jan Dirk. Which was really fun. Also, I was there with like some of the test printing. And I was really eager to like learn some stuff from Jan Dirk. Like, oh yeah, teach me the magic. And like within 30 seconds, I was like, wait, hold up, what are you doing now? Like, dial it back, and then again, like after 1 minute, like, oh man, this guy is so tuned in. It's going so fast. So it was not the masterclass I hoped for, but
you were more stunned.
Exactly, it's more like in awe of everything that was happening. But he did show me something really interesting in this book with the separations. That like everything was like in the how do you say that?
Trapped or everything?
But in the color separation, everything had like the dots.
Oh yeah.
And normally, like also with Bobby, like a lot of times we just use the grain.
Yep.
But with this, I learned like how
regular screening, like FM screening.
Yeah. But like how more vibrant the colors can, how it sort of like breathe a bit more. So I'm experimenting more with using different stuff than just like the standard put it through in grain, whatever stuff. So yeah, that's that.
And just one quick tip is if you only have the Mac driver, you can actually bitmap your image in Photoshop and then print it in grain touch and you keep all the angles and the dots. So you can do, even though the Mac driver doesn't have all the nice settings as the PC, the fancy stuff. But super, thank you so much for sharing. And they're in Tilburg, so if you're ever visiting the center of the Netherlands and the also the textile museum is there. There's many beautiful things in Tilburg. You can swing by and maybe call a visit over to them. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go visit Knust for a brief moment. Jan Dirk is going to tell me a little bit about this publication. So this is Knust. I'm sure you all know who they are. And Jan Dirk made this publication about the resurrection of stencil print media. And maybe you can just tell us a little bit about the sculpture at the end here, Jan Dirk?
Okay. Everybody.
Oh wait, show that picture too.
Okay. Everybody likes Riso nowadays, but Riso is just a brand. And before we discovered Riso, we would just use old stencil machines. And this is a predecessor of Riso because it also works with drums which you can exchange. It's called Ronio.
Now, when you use these machines, what pre-press did you do then? Were you using grain touch or were you using?
You used a stencil cutter And Ronio had a stencil cutter which had color filters. So it had a red, a green, and a blue filter, and a O filter for like they call it, like the deep black parts. So it's basically the same as changing a RGB image to CMYK. And so we had a lot of, we still have them, like 5 different stencil cutters, and one had a more nicer, richer yellow, and the other had more a better color separation, and the other had more gray tones, and that's and it took like 10 minutes to make an analog stencil, which would break half of the time. So here you can see how we went from the old stencil machines to the Ronio stencil cutter, to the Rico Pripor, to the Riso machine. And so nowadays there's some people like the old stencil machines, and they always come to the big branch called Gestetner, which at the time everybody used, and the Gestetner was not so good for color separation, and it was, but actually it's has a big advantage that you can put in Riso ink, because they don't make ink anymore, and in the Ronio there's a different kind, more thinner ink. You cannot put Riso ink in the Ronio drum, and also because it's emulsion ink, and it goes inside the drum, and the drums will rust if you put in some water.
But if I may take you back one moment, how did you make the originals for the Ronio? Like
you just make color separations on a stencil cutter, or you work with on a light table, like old-fashioned way. You just, a lot of times I would go to, if you're in that book, this is a reprint of something we were printed in the 80s, and this is just made a color separation by going to the copy shops, make 2 copies, and make things white in one copy and add some other tones on the other copy. So that's, and of course on the Riso, now we made it into 1A3. With the Ronio, it was not possible to print like that, but that's how we made a color separation by hand on the light table and using the copy machines. This is yellow and blue.
So there really wasn't any options for screening or anything?
No, because if you have a stencil cutter, it turns very fast and it makes sort of lines, and then it makes it a little bit. It burns a little bit more or a little bit less, and sometimes you can see the lines, but there's not really any dots in it, and it's too rough to really do dots. But still, that we don't have any old with us. But here you can see what happened. This is because everybody's forgotten about Ronio. So this is like a photo of where the Ronio factory used to be, and they made a sculpture like mimicking a Ronio drum or a Ronio machine where the paper feeds through, and probably one remaining employee who is in
the last sales rep.
Yeah, probably. So that's like a little bit of the history, or it's like
amazing.
And when we get other things, like when we use the Ronios, like around in the beginning of the 90s, we were really afraid because the factory was closing down that we had to stop. So we bought a lot of stencils, a lot of ink, all the remaining ink from the import company. We started making our own ink, and then we found out that actually Riso was keeping the technique alive. So that's.
And now today with the Gestetners, you use a Riso, or Erwin uses a Riso to make the stencils. Yeah. So it's kind of like cheating.
Yeah, it's like, and you can use the stencils from because before he discovered Riso, because we know him already 20 years ago, sometimes he would use like an old matrix printer from the 80s to make a stencil. So that was kind of cute, and it's a little bit I remember like 15 years ago we did a workshop somewhere, and we just made the stencils in Eindhoven, and we made stencils at night in Nijmegen, and didn't tell them that we didn't really cut the old-fashioned stencils because they were just burnt plastic, and it's really smelly and it's not healthy. And there was a kind of like environmental friendly stencils in the 80s, but you cannot get them, which were made of carbon. But that's
Well, that was excellent. Thank you so much, Yandrik. This knowledge needs to be recorded more. And if you're ever in Nijmegen, you can see these Ronios that they have. They're all still at Knust Press. They also have excellent music shows, so please do come by and check them out. Okay? Thank you. Okay, now we take another lap and see the people that we missed. So here's Sori, they're back. So Sori is based in Antwerp, Belgium. Here are a couple of their publications. Hello.
Hi.
Do you mind if I interrupt you? I'm sorry. Would you mind maybe just giving us a brief introduction, your name, and maybe a little bit about your press?
About my press? Yeah, sure. So I'm Manik, I'm from Surrey Print Studio. I also publish some works. I'm based in Antwerp, Belgium. Yeah, we have a Riso press in our spare bedroom. So it's a really small space, but it's big enough to work in. Yeah.
Amazing. Are there any particular publications you'd like to share with us and maybe talk a little bit about? You can pick anyone.
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 That's a really difficult question.
I can also pick one.
Yeah.
Maybe the 4 Japanese castles.
This is actually my own work, so kind of funny that you chose it. The 4 Japanese castles, I find it interesting because I made it and I know what to say about it. But it's sort of like...
You can also maybe talk more about the technical aspects, like designing it or the screening that you use or some of the pre-press that you go through to create the book.
Yeah, I can do that as well. I don't know what you choose.
We can talk about pre-press.
Yeah, pre-press. So I'm not from a graphic design background. I'm more from a photographic background. So my knowledge of pre-press isn't that great. But I used to start out with like separating colors because I'm a photographer. I need to get the colors kind of right. And it was really difficult in the beginning because there were like no tools to help me. So I made like these actions in Photoshop to separate the colors using channels and stuff. But recently there's been like a duo of Riso printers in the US, in Seattle.
Yeah, it's Spectralite.
Yeah, they made Spectralite. And it's been such a help using them. They have like a free app, works great.
We were just talking to Riso for it, who also uses Spectralite to do all of their separation.
And they're really great and really accessible. And sometimes I message them with like a suggestion to update the app in a certain direction, and then they just add the features I ask for, which is really great for a free app.
Very, very, very friendly group. And is there like a particular preference for your screening type? Do you like to use grain touch, or do you like to use the dot process, like the CMYK process?
I use like a mix of both. Like I usually go for the grain touch on like the lighter layers, and then the top layer, which is the darkest layer, I go for like a dot screen, which gives me the best results, I feel. Because a grain touch can be a little bit dirty at times, I feel.
And are there any new projects on the horizon you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, sure. The last 2 publications we made were like the results of an open call, but I've actually selected 4 works, so there are 2 more coming. 2 photographic works again, so it's really nice to work with. Yeah.
And the artists, you know, what are their names?
Wiebe Stalpaert.
Both Belgian?
Yeah, and Jasper Koorman, they're making one book together. It's like a mix between like the work of a philosopher and a photographer, but he's really into like poetry as well. So it's like poetry and photography together. And then there's a work of Dorothea Waldemeier, who's a Berlin-based artist who works around archival images of plants and greenery, and which is really nice.
And one last takeaway question: which Riso do you have, and which colors do you have in stock in your bedroom?
Yeah, I have a Riso EZ571E, which is a mouthful, 571E. Yeah. And I have like 8 colors: black, purple, green, blue, yellow, fluorescent orange, fluorescent pink, and bright reds and yellow. I don't know if I repeated it. Yeah.
Here, one of many.
And there's a poster on the back which was also used. Well, I used Spectralight for it. Yeah. And you can see the grain touch and the dot screen on there as well.
So this is the hybrid screening of grain touch and so both AM and FM screening. Phenomenal, stunning.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh. Oh yeah, you had it back here. I saw yesterday.
Yeah, I know.
The underbelly of a book fair is usually quite overwhelming, but here we go. We found it.
Yeah. If you take the camera, hold it against the loop.
Okay, let's do it. We're zooming in. We're zooming in. Good luck.
Now we're getting closer to the prints. And when you get really close, you can see the screen dots on the black. But the red and the yellow, if you go closer to here, yeah, I don't know if you can see it, there's the grain touch. And this one is a screen. And it's a mix of the two that I feel like works best for me and with photography. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing and providing the loop. If you're ever in Antwerp, you should come by his house and check out his studio, but also I'm sure you are very active and give them a follow on the gram as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ciao. Thank you so much. Okay, I think we have one last stop. Yeah. And we're going to the Riso master. I don't actually see him there, so he might be busy working. Pardon me, sorry. Oh wait, Kudla is here, so maybe we'll chat with him real quick. Knust Press, maybe a little hesitant to speak, but if you fancy, maybe just introducing yourself and chatting a little bit about your 10-year tenure in the Riso printing world. Just your name, where you're from.
I'm Lukas. I'm from Prague. Originally, I'm from Bratislava, from Slovakia, but I'm based in Prague. So, yeah, and I'm running risography, riso workshop. So
Amazing, amazing. And maybe if you have a publication, you'd like to maybe talk about like something interesting or how you do the pre-press, and if you prefer certain types of screenings like grain touch or a different dot pattern or anything like that.
I like different artists and different styles. Yeah. So yeah, maybe this one is from one friend, Przemek Czerny, and yeah, I like his type of drawing. I don't know what to talk about it, but yeah, it talks. The book talks, you know.
And do you mostly do work with illustration, or is it matter on the?
Because I was studying illustration and graphics on Umprum in Prague, so the base is there. So a lot of friends are illustrators. But I like also photography and and also more conceptual books or arts. So yeah, it's different.
Super. Thank you so much. That was harmless, no? If you're ever in Prague, you should pay a visit to Kudla. They've been around for 10 years, right? 10 years, running strong, and continuing to do everything. Thanks so much. Okay, we go to stencil work. Bertus is not there. And then we conclude our. Oh, wait, no, Bertus is here.
How are you?
I'm good. Maybe you want to just introduce yourself and your project very briefly?
Sure. Is this close enough?
Yes.
Do I need to hold it? No? Well, my name is Bertus. I'm from Stencilwerk, and I do a lot of printing for other people. Amongst others are Hock Gallery and Lula Valletta, the organizer of the festival. We used to be partners, but we're separated now. So the print studio, yeah, I do a lot of printing for other people and a little bit for myself. And it actually all started with this book. It's called In Situ, and it's about the underground music scene of The Hague. And I did the printing all by myself for this publication. And it's an edition of 300.
Wow.
It's almost sold out. These are the last few copies.
I have a copy in New York of this book.
Really? Wow. I feel very honored to hear this. That's nice.
I believe we spoke to your old partners. Maybe you could just describe to us a little bit about your process of pre-press and like how you determine whether or not to use what types of screening or how you work with artists to go dive real deep into the dots of this printer.
Yeah, I find it's very difficult because I only use grain touch mostly.
Everybody uses grain touch only.
Almost everybody, yeah. Because most of my customers don't really know about the risograph printing, so I just tell them I think this is the most beautiful way to print it. So I rarely print with rasters. I think I did this one actually partly in raster from the PC, but I'm not sure anymore. I think it is rastered. And but the PC kept crashing, so it was very difficult to get prints right. But I usually do, even with full color prints, I do with the grain touch. Yeah.
Is it live?
Yeah, it is live.
This is zero live.
Live on the cutting edge.
Live on the cutting edge at the other book fair in The Hague.
And now it's good.
That's good. So Bertus was also telling us that most of the time he uses grain touch. It seems to be the most popular choice of screening here at the other book fair. I can't wait to ask some more questions around the world and see who else likes to use it.
Grain touch. I like it. 4 colors. So this is like an edition of 200. And we did everything in grain touch. It's mostly 4 and 2 colors. Sometimes 1 color. But my problem always is that the top half looks good and then the bottom half is horrible. It's out of shift or something. But I now have a plugin that rotates things and then it's much better. But yeah.
Maybe you want to just tell us which risograph you use and how long you've been working with it?
Well, I started working with the MZ970. That was my first machine, and I liked it. But yeah, always the skew was horrible. And then I got the ME 9350, and this was much better with the skew. Also because they were much newer drums. And in 2 weeks' time, I get the MF. So I wonder what that's like with 8 new drums, brand new drums, and 2 used drums. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
And you're based here in The Hague?
Yes, I'm based in the Besturing. It's like a building with 40 different artists, and we all do way different things. There's like a welder and a designer and how do you call this? Like a chair maker, makes stools and furniture and stuff. So everybody works together and we give each other assignments. So could you help me with this, and I'll pay you for that. And so
They're a great little collective. So if you are here today at the Other Book Fair, please come by and check out all these wonderful publishers. And thank you for joining us today.
So yeah, hello, Knuckles and Nuts and Corners. We did this. We published these books together with them. This is the last one. This is the first edition of the project Moving Dots, speaking about dots. So we are going to show them this recording, and we can chat with them also with these questions, and they can answer back too. So
hi all, miss ya. Wish you were here.
Yes, we wish you were here, and we hope to see you
Soon.
Soon, yes.
Cool. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much.